Hi everyone, so I just wanted to welcome you to the Essential Oil Safety webinar for babies and children. We're just going to take a few minutes to let everyone get on. If you're anything like me, you're probably running a little bit behind, so we'll give people some time to pop on here. And while we're waiting, if you want to hop in the chat box and let us know where you're from, that would be awesome. Looks like we already have some people on. So thank you very much for being here. If you see
so let's see where everyone's from. I'm Katie, and I am over in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And I am in Ontario, Canada, near Cornwall, or near Ottawa in Cornwall. So if you guys see, there's a chat box over on the right-hand side of the screen. If you just want to pop in there and let us know where you're from, that would be awesome. Oh, we have someone from Jefferson Hills, Pennsylvania.
All right.
Oh, that's exciting.
I know, Pennsylvania, unite.
Niagara Falls, Arkansas.
Wow.
Okay, maybe we'll just go ahead and get started. Looks like there's about 16 people on so far, so I don't want you guys waiting who are here. So we'll get started, and we're going to be sending out a replay after, so if anybody misses anything, you'll get a replay both of the video as well as the slides. So don't worry about if you have to leave early or if there's anything you miss, don't worry about that. Oh, and Amanda from Coldwater, welcome. Okay, so my name's Chantal. If you already know me, I blog over at Painted Teacup. And I was lucky enough to connect with Katie. Katie has 2 little ones, and she's also a certified aromatherapist. So there was a bunch of people asking me for information about essential oil safety with kids. And as much as I am very passionate about sharing the information, it's just not information that I had. And I don't want to share information if I don't have the research to back that up. So we're very lucky to have Katie with us today. And she's gone through, there's a whole PowerPoint presentation created. I've already learned a lot just with working with Katie behind the scenes this week. So I know that you guys are going to benefit from this greatly. And we're going to, if you have any questions throughout, you can ask them in the chat, and I'll record them. I'll answer any if I can, which I would imagine are a few. But if there are any that I can answer, I'll definitely pop on and answer them there. And if not, we'll save them for Katie to answer at the end. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Katie, and she's the one that we're going to be talking with for probably the next 45 minutes to an hour.
Hi, everybody. I am Katie. Get used to hearing my voice because you will probably hear lots of it. You might hear 2 children in the background, well, hopefully only 1. I have a 9-month-old who doesn't sleep very well, actually. He doesn't sleep hardly at all these days, but my wonderful husband is behind the scenes back there. And so you may hear a baby cry here and there, but he will hopefully be sleeping for this webinar. As Chantal said, my name is Katie, and I blog over at The Wise Wife. I've been a certified aromatherapist for quite a few years now, and I was so excited to get together with Chantal and partner to do this webinar. I really think, and we both think, that it's great information that needs to get out there, and we're just really happy to be presenting it to you. I do tend to ramble, so if you have questions, get ready for a long answer, hopefully, or maybe a short answer. But this webinar is about children and babies, and it is a non-company specific webinar. So we're talking about general information about essential oils that works across the board. I don't care what oils you use. I I use many different companies myself. There are many great ones out there, so this information would apply to anything you would use. And hopefully, if you do have questions at the end, I will be able to answer them at the best that I can. And if I can't answer it, I will get back to you. So let's go over to the PowerPoint. I'm going to show you and screen share it. Chantel is really the mastermind behind this. I am just following her directions, and she's good at direction giving. So does everyone see the PowerPoint up?
Yeah, it looks like it's up, Katie.
All right, here we go. So like we said, essential oil safety for babies and children, presented by me, Katie, the certified aromatherapist, and also by Chantel, who knows way more than she gives herself credit for. Okay, we are going to cover over the course of this webinar. We're going to talk about safe oils to use for children of different ages. We're also going to talk about the oils that aren't safe to use for children of different ages, the proper dilution for children, application methods that you can use when using oils with your child, how to spot an unsafe recipe. So we all know, we've all been online. We've been on Pinterest, we've seen things shared on Facebook. How can we figure out quickly that this recipe might not be the best to use with our child? And also there's going to be a question and answer session at the end. So moving right along, what essential oils can I use with my kids? And this is from my own experience. This is also from a lot of clinical research that's out there. I sourced all the information for this webinar from Tisa Rand and Young's Essential Oil Safety, the second edition. So that is the most updated version. It has over 4,000 references. So they're talking clinical references, they're talking references from information they've encountered. So it's a really great resource. And if you don't have it, go get the book. It's on Amazon. It's about like $90 or so, but it is worth every single penny. Kid you not. Okay, so let's continue on. So what essential oils can I use with my baby? And we're talking babies under a year. And a year, I generally recommend a hydrosol or diffusing. Those are two very safe things to do. Hydrosols are what are basically the distilled water from the production of essential oils. They retain a lot of the scent and a lot of the great therapeutic properties, but they're not as strong. They're the water part. The oil is the oil part. So when you distill oils, you have a bunch of plant matter, and for steam distillation, steam rises up through the plant matter, opens the cell walls, and that steam in the oil that breaks out of those cell walls gets distilled and then gets condensed, and the steam becomes water, and the essential oil remains on top as an essential oil. But the hydrosol, they still can use that, and it's great. I love using lavender hydrosol, or I use helichrysum a lot in baby wipes. You can replace it as the water for anything in a baby wipe recipe, and it works wonders. The other way you can use essential oils with your baby is to diffuse. Diffusers are great for rooms. They're great for main rooms of your house. I generally keep diffusing rules of 15 minutes maximum for young children. But you can also use other safe essential oils topically at a 0.5% dilution. And I suggest after 3 months. I really don't like to use essential oils with my babies before they're 3 months old. I have in the past, and I've done lots of things, and I've even made a few mistakes myself. But I try to keep it after 3 months just because essential oils are very potent and babies are so little. Some oils that I use with my children are lavender, sweet orange, and Roman chamomile for different uses. Some before bed, some before bath, some in rubs or massages. I like to give my little ones massages. I like to think it helps them sleep better, although they would beg to differ with me. And
Can we just, it looks like a couple of people are having a hard time reading they can read it, but it's a bit fuzzy. Are you able to zoom in a little bit more? I can tell you if it gets to be too much of a zoom.
How is this?
I can still read it fine, and then hopefully that's good for everyone else. If everyone else can chime in and let us know if that's a bit better. we will be sending out a copy of the PowerPoint after. I hope that's a bit better for everyone. Okay, sorry, Katie, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's fine. So next, let's talk about children who are a little bit older. So children aged 2 to 10. I still recommend a 0.5 to a 1% dilution of most safe essential oils. And when I say like a 1% dilution, oils at 1% dilution means you would use 5 to 6 drops of essential oil per 1 ounce of a carrier oil. So you would get 1 ounce of fractionated coconut oil, and you'd only put 5 to 6 drops in. If you were using 0.5%, that would be 2 to 3 drops. So just 2 to 3 drops per 1 ounce of carrier oil. It might seem like a tiny, tiny bit, but it really isn't. And you need to mix it well to make sure that all the oils are incorporated together. Most safe essential oils are the oils that aren't going to be on the list that I'll show you later. So we'll move on to the oils that we can't use with kids. I'm going to give a brief overview here. In my opinion and in my experience, safe is better than sorry. We are going to talk about some oils that some people may use, but it is really recommended by the experts in the field right now not to use them in certain ways. The first two that I'm going to talk about, and everyone is pretty much in agreement on these two oils. They're called wintergreen essential oil and birch essential oil. These are big no-nos. Don't use them with kids. I don't even use them with myself. They could possibly cause Raynaud syndrome, which if you're familiar with aspirin, that's why we don't give our children aspirin. It is, I'm not really sure exactly what Raynaud syndrome is, but we know that some of the constituents in wintergreen and birch do cause that. And mainly that was from ingestion, but it's still considered unsafe to use the oils on children. The other big one, and a lot of people talk about this, is oils with a chemical that's called 1,8-cineol. And when you get into the chemistry of aromatherapy, 1,8-cineol comes from the chemical family of the oxides. So that is a very heavier type of smell. Think like a menthol smell or a Vicks Vapor Rub smell, and you'll recognize that smell in oils like eucalyptus and tea tree and rosemary and peppermint. They all have that kind of like a nasal opening smell, which means that they are awesome for respiratory distress and respiratory ailments and things like that. When you have a stuffy nose, they're great to use for those things. But it is really important to note that these oils can cause breathing difficulties in children under the age of 10. The recommendation for these oils is not to use them on or around the face of children under age 10. I've seen some debate on whether you can use them in a diffuser or not. There's one site, the School for Aromatic Studies, that states that yes, you could use it in a diffuser because that's not technically on or around the face, but that's still a gray area. Personally, in my own experience, I don't use these essential oils with my children. And maybe since my oldest is 3, maybe when he is slightly older, I will proceed with caution, but I would caution anyone who does diffuse them to check your child. Make sure that they're not acting differently. Make sure that their breathing is okay and their breathing is normal before you would use them with your child. But personally, I don't recommend using them, and I won't use them on my children until they're much older. Chantel, does anyone have any questions right now?
Sorry, I had my microphone muted. There was just one question, and I believe it is typed out on a future slide, but do we have it broken down of the number of drops per ounce for different dilution rates?
So I just talked about the 0.5% dilution and the 1% dilution, but I'm going to send you to an awesome resource. And this is one of my favorite resources of dilution calculators. It is called, and I wrote it down, I have many Post-it notes on my computer. I already told Chantel because I know that I'm going to forget. It is called marvymoms.com, moms.com, and it is their dilution calculator. If you go on that site and scroll down a little bit through the post, if you Google it, you'll find it, I'm sure. But you scroll down through the post a little bit, it will let you put in what type of container you have, whether it's in milliliters or ounces, and how many, I believe how many drops of oil you want to put in, or vice versa, and it can tell you the dilution ratio. It makes it a no-brainer. But I'll quickly recap. If you want a 1% dilution, that means 5 to 6 drops of essential oil and 1 ounce of carrier oil. And you can multiply that. Say you have 2 ounces of a carrier oil. That means 10 to 12 drops. Does that make sense? I think it should. I hope it answers that question. Sometimes I forget that you guys can't talk back to me, but you can type it over in the box. So make sure.
While we're here, another question that just came in, also for everybody, I just added dilution. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. The link for that dilution calculator, I just sent that into the chat. So somebody is asking, does Breathe have 1/8? I can't say that word. And can you use it on the feet or chest? I use Breathe on my 2-year-old. So I believe that that was something that you discussed with somebody yesterday, Katie, about using Breathe with the blend for respiratory use.
Yes. So actually, and if you go onto the Painted Teacups Facebook site, there should be a graphic that has all of the essential oils to avoid with children under age 2. Somebody asked that question about the Breathe blend by doTERRA. And I did answer that there, but I'll briefly answer it here just because I don't remember all of the oils in it, but I know that the Breathe blend does have several oils in it that have 1/8 cineol rich essential oils. And I think they are eucalyptus, ravensara, laurel leaf, and a few others that I don't remember offhand. I'm not very familiar with doTERRA.
I'm pulling up that post right now.
Great.
So maybe I'll share that link right in the chat for everybody, and then, because my computer's being silly, and then trying to find the one where you actually listed, I guess it was on the post with the list of the oils to avoid.
That's correct. So on that post, somebody did ask the same question, and personally, I wouldn't use that blend with my young children, especially those under the age of 2, because of the types of oils that are in them and the nature of them, and the fact that they are really strong, which makes that an excellent blend for respiratory issues, but not for children, because it can be too strong for them and overwhelm their systems. So it could actually cause them breathing difficulty instead. But there are some good alternatives to that. I know Plant Therapy has a great kid-safe line of essential oils. And like I said, I don't really want to get too much into brands because I use many different brands. I'm not all bent on one brand, but I'm not bent on another brand. But I really would caution using the Breathe blend with children. I hope that answers.
Specifically for a 2-year-old. So even at that age, is that still?
The recommendation on 1/8 cineol rich essential oils is actually under the age of 10. So Rodney and Young Tisserand and Young in essential oil safety, they aren't really specific when they talk about young children. They mean anyone under the age of 10, but I would say in my experience, it would be anyone 5 and under, maybe with caution from 10 to 5. And there's a great infographic that I shared on that same post that Chantel's going to put in the box from Tisserand and Young about the use of eucalyptus and the use of peppermint essential oil with children and the distinction on diffusing and topically. So if you look there, you should be able to find that info too. And I'll put it on my Facebook page, The Wise Wife, as soon as we're done with this webinar. I'll put it as the next post that I make.
I just put that link up to the specific post that Katie's talking about over on Painted Teacups Facebook page, so you can check that out there if you want to see more about that. But we will be covering the oils to avoid just very shortly here as well.
And with that said, let's move forward to the next slide. And that is kind of what we've been talking about. What essential oils can I use with my kids under 2? And these are oils that I don't recommend people to use with their children under age 2. And it comes from the recommendations from T. Sarand and Young, and also a really helpful website that I think is great. It's run by a certified aromatherapist. It's called usingeosafely.com. And that is a great resource. I'll put these resources on my page as well, and I'm sure Chantel might put them on her page too. But that is a good one if you're looking for safe, well-researched essential oil information. But looking at this list, there's a lot of essential oils that are really popular. Like I'm looking through and I'm seeing clove. I've seen clove recommended so many times for teething pain for toddlers, but that is a 1,8-cineal rich oil. Eucalyptus is very common. People say rub it on your child's feet, or peppermint. I've seen people say rub it on your child's feet. Please don't rub undiluted oils ever on anyone's feet. Adults, kids, not a good practice. Dilute them and don't use them with children under 2 just because it could cause respiratory problems. I'm trying to see, ylang ylang I've seen suggested for children. Chantel just said she hates the smell of it and she can't stand it. She can't get over it. It doesn't really bother me, but I have a feeling my 3-year-old would hate it as well. And then just another side note, if your child seems to be bothered by an oil, even if it is a safe oil, I would discontinue the use, because sometimes we all have preferences and everyone is different. Every child is different. So if you think that, hey, something's just not right here, I would stop it and maybe try it again at another time, maybe in a few days or so, and see if it's changed. And if it hasn't, I wouldn't use it for a while, just in case. Like I said, you can never be too safe with your kids. All right. And this is talking about children under age 5. What oils shouldn't I use with children under age 5? And the list does go down quite a bit, just because, there are more oils that you can use, and they're safer because your child at age 5 has grown a little bit and their systems have developed a little bit. And you will get this PowerPoint in your email, so you'll be able to look at these lists in depth. But I'm going to pause for a second and just see if there are any questions in regard to these 2 lists.
There is a question. Does the weight of a child play into effect, or is it just strictly age?
The recommendations are strictly by age. I haven't seen anyone give a recommendation by weight, but that is a really good question. I'm going to have to look that up and see if there are any recommendations by weight. I haven't seen any by weight.
Okay, yeah, because I guess it would work both ways, right? If you have a child who's closer to 5 but is a much smaller child, or if you have a child who's large for their age, I don't know if that, but my kind of first guess is that regardless of their weight, their bodies are probably at the same stage of development based on their age.
I think that is a very likely point. But yeah, I would still stand by the age recommendation. Just like it's not recommended to use cow's milk with babies like regular, from the bottle cow's milk until they're at age 1, just like the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends. I don't really think they have a weight recommendation.
Right. Okay.
That might be a little off topic.
I think that's the only questions that we have right at the moment.
Okay, moving on. What is the proper dilution for kids? So you heard me say it before, dilute, 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 and I'll say it again, dilute. Always dilute essential oils, especially in the case of children. We talked about it a little bit before. For a child under 12 years of age, it's recommended to use a child-safe oil at a dilution of 1%, or with very young children, so we're talking babies and immunocompromised children who are battling an illness or chronically ill use a 0.5% dilution. 5 to 6 drops of essential oil per ounce of carrier oil at 1%, or 2 to 3 drops of essential oil per ounce of carrier oil at a 0.5% dilution. And this is because children are smaller than adults. Their bodies need a lower dilution. Just like I don't take the same dose of Tylenol as my child takes. I take a larger dose and they take a much smaller dose. And my 9-month-old takes a much smaller dose of Tylenol than my 3-year-old does. It's, just the same kind of idea. And always use essential oils diluted. I know I said this again, but it's just so important. I was sharing with Chantel earlier in the week, there is a place called the Atlantic Institute of Essential Oils, I believe, and that could be wrong, but it's the Atlantic Institute of, I'm pretty sure, aromatherapy or essential oils. And they release a list of reported incidents that happen with essential oils, and so many of them are because essential oils are used undiluted, so they can cause burns, and a lot of them actually do happen to children. So I cannot stress that enough. Another reason why I stress dilution is because of something called sensitization. And I'm going to fumble my words because it is 8 o'clock and I've been up for a very long time with my 9-month-old. But anyway, sensitization is an allergic immune response which can show in irritated skin, raised bumps, difficulty breathing, or other allergy symptoms. So basically, sensitization is a reaction to essential oils. By diluting essential oils, you're making sure you're reducing your risk for sensitization because you're exposing your skin and your body to a lower amount of essential oil in that diluted ratio. Especially with kids, this is important because they are more sensitive to essential oils, and sensitization can show up more strongly and quickly on children. I have always been afraid that one of my children is going to have an allergic reaction. So I always do something that's called a skin test, a patch test. I will take a blend or an essential oil and dilute it, and I'll apply just a little bit to an area like their wrist, so an exposed area. And if I'll wait for a period of time. Some places recommend covering it with a Band-Aid and waiting 24 hours. Sometimes I just wait a few hours. And if there is no raised bumps, or if I don't think that they're having any difficulty breathing or any trouble there, I'll go ahead and use that blend in my diffuser or however I was intending to use it. But if I do see anything like maybe a little rash or something, I will not use it because you just don't know how a child is going to respond. And later on in life, they may respond differently. Any questions there?
Yes, it goes back to the diffusing part earlier on. So I believe that you said for under 15 minutes, for up to 15 minutes for children under 2. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I normally 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, and you can do that every hour.
Every hour, okay.
Yeah, 10 to 15 minutes for an hour, 10 to 15 minutes, then I would wait another hour, and then you could do another 10 to 15 minutes a few times a day.
And what about over age 2? Does that make a difference?
I would even recommend like under age 5 to do 10 to 15 minutes. And even for adults, the recommendation I think is no longer than 20 minutes of diffusing and then take a break. It could be a half hour, it could be an hour. Okay. I'm not 100% on that.
And another question from Heidi. She's asking, for the list of oils that are not safe to use for kids under 2, does that also include diffusing?
I say yes. Now, I just kind of touched on this briefly. There is a gray area. Some people say that, yes, you can diffuse some of these oils. I say I wouldn't diffuse them myself. Especially like some of the oils, the recommendation is not to diffuse because of that 1,8 cineol component. And that is because the recommendation is not to diffuse them because it could be on or around the face of infants or children. Other oils are just not contraindicated because of levels of other chemicals like estradiol. I talked about in one of the comments on this graphic that Chantel shared, I did talk about that one a little bit. So if you go through those comments, and she linked that in the dialogue box on the side. So if you go there and check through some of those comments, there is a reason why you can't use estradiol in there. Any
Awesome.
other questions?
And do you have a recommendation for a good rule of thumb for the number of drops per, like, a certain amount of milliliters in a diffuser for when you're using it with kids, or how do you
Yeah.
do that?
So it depends on the diffuser. Diffusers come in all different sizes and shapes, and so what I do is if I'm making a blend, I blend the blend separately in like a 15 ml bottle, and then I'll put, for kids, normally 2 to 4 drops of the blend, depending on like whether it's really deep notes or really light notes. And my diffuser, I don't remember how much it is, but it's like a medium-sized diffuser. I would recommend that you follow the recommendations on that particular model. I think that the recommendations for most diffusers are pretty status quo for children. I wouldn't recommend putting in any less drops of oil. I would just recommend using it for less time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. I think that's all that we have right for this moment.
Okay, well, let's move on. We'll talk about application methods. The main 3 application methods are diffusing, so inhalation, or topically, and then the other one, we're not even going to go near it today, is ingesting. Don't ingest with your children. That's all I'm going to say about that one, and I'll leave that for if somebody wants to debate it, not here. But the methods that we're going to talk about using with children are diffusers and topically, and we're also going to talk about baths too a little bit. But diffusing, we already hit on this a little bit, intermittently for 10 to 15 minutes at a time with those child-safe oils. So I wouldn't use any oils on the not recommended list. And then take a 1-hour break between the diffusing periods. I know people who like to diffuse overnight with their children. I really wouldn't recommend that. I would say if you're looking to diffuse to relax them before bedtime, do 1 series of diffusing for 10 to 15 minutes, like maybe during the bath. Say you're giving your child a bath and you want to diffuse at that time, great. 10 to 15 minutes, diffuse, turn it off, and then, let them go ahead and go to bed. And then topically, so if you're making a salve, even if you're making your own wipes, if you're making anything that would be applied on the skin, whether it's a rub for their feet or rub for their back, 0.5 to 1% dilution of child-safe oils. I make a lot of, I make a diaper rash cream, and it has lavender in it, and I try to keep that at a 1% dilution, just because it's going on their bum and all those other areas that can be kind of sensitive. But if you have a child with sensitive skin, I'd say 0.5%. And then baths. So I love using essential oils in the bath, but there is a key point that I want to make. Oil and water don't mix. We know it. In our salad dressing, they don't mix, and other things they don't mix, and that is true with essential oils in baths. If you take your bottle of essential oils and drop into your bath, you can see the oils on top of the water. Great? So, with that being said, essential oils really work best if you dilute them in something, whether it's Epsom salts or even some soap. You could dilute it in some soap or a carrier, which actually would probably still sit on top of your bath. I normally will use some bubble bath soap to disperse the oils, and that will combine it with the water. I've also used bath salts like Epsom salts for myself. But I recommend only using 1 to 2 drops maximum. And in that comment box, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot. But can you tell me why I only recommend 1 to 2 drops maximum? Because if you've taken a bath with essential oils, I am sure somebody out there knows. So Chantel, does anyone have the answer to my question?
I'm just going to wait a second because I've noticed that there's 3 or 4 second delay between the 2 screens. between what everyone else can see and what we're saying. So I'm going to wait for a second here. I'm sure that there's a few people who've inadvertently experienced it.
Yes, and I talk really fast too, so I'm going to apologize. I am like a speed talker, especially when I'm nervous.
I'm not seeing anything yet, so maybe, or I can even speak on it too.
I have a funny story that I'll elaborate on. When I first started using essential oils, before I became a certified aromatherapist, I really enjoyed making bath salts for my friends. And I used some peppermint essential oil in one of my bath salts. And let's just say I might have used somewhere around like 10 to 20 drops in my thing of Epsom salts. And my friend put the whole thing of Epsom salts into her bath. And she called me and she said, my skin is on fire, my skin is on fire. And I felt awful because I forgot to say, only use a tablespoon. And yeah, so it was bad. So this is why I'm telling you, only use 1 to 2 drops because essential oils are really potent in the bath. When you turn on that warm water, you will know that there is something in your bath water. You will smell it. It will permeate the room. So definitely stick to 1 to 2 drops or else you may end up giving your child a headache.
Good point.
Yeah. All right. Does anyone have any questions before we move on about application methods?
I don't think so, but if anybody does have a question, feel free to ask it and we can pop those questions in at the end for sure too.
Okay. Well, now this is my favorite slide, I think, so far, is how to spot a harmful recipe. That's why we wanted to do this webinar, is to talk about how dangerous. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And it's not because people are intentionally spreading the word about essential oils to defame them or because they want to hurt people. It's just everyone has wonderful intentions. It just doesn't always come with the best advice or the best research. So here are some quick tips on how to spot a harmful recipe. The first one is the amount of essential oils seems way too high. Let's say you're seeing a blend that has like 170 essential oils and 2 drops of carrier oil. Well, it's probably not diluted, and you can hop over to that dilution calculator at marvymoms.com and check that out, and put all your numbers in, and it will say like it's at 99% undiluted, so not safe. This goes hand in hand with that. There's no carrier oil at all. People are just giving you a recipe and saying rub this all over your child. Probably not a good idea. There's an overall lack of information on essential oil safety. So you're going and checking out a recipe and there is no mention of why these essential oils are useful to your child or why they are safe for your child. That is probably not your best recipe. Then also, if the website doesn't seem legitimate, so you're going on there and the wording doesn't sound quite right, it doesn't sound, like somebody would speak, or if there's a ton of ads, or if, you just kind of know when you hit one of those websites and you're like, I'm not so sure about this. Another good one is it makes sweeping generalizations. This oil blend will heal your child from XYZ, or this oil blend is the most calming blend that will make your child sleep from midnight to midnight. Those probably, just don't even try it. And then the last one, it claims to heal with no clinical research. If you are looking for a good recipe, it will have been tried. The essential oils will have been proven effective by clinical research for whatever you're looking for. And if there isn't that backing, it is urging you to do your own research. And if you do your own research and find that, yes, I really think this would work for my child. Go ahead. But if you do the research and you can't find anything to support those claims, I wouldn't use it. Any questions on that? Because we have a fun exercise coming up.
I don't think so. I think I was actually able to answer the question. So
All right.
so that's good. Yeah, we can go on because this is I'm excited for this slide. So.
Well, Chantel, why don't you take this one? Oh, we're missing it.
Oh my goodness. Not my favorite slide. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up very quickly here on my computer, and then I'll share my screen, Katie, so that they can see that specific slide. But while I'm pulling it up here, so this webinar is I recently, partially it was because people have asked for it, of course, but I've also, in wanting to find information to share with people, have found some really, for lack of a better word, scary stuff. So this isn't even what I found, the slide that we're going to show you, but this is, I came across this recipe, and it's called the Peaceful Child Blend. And from what I know, like, it's not a blend for a specific, it's not a blend from a specific brand. It's just a blend that people commonly use. And so what I did was I just went on to Pinterest, and I think, Katie, you might have to stop sharing your screen.
Sure.
Perfect. So I just hopped onto Pinterest and I typed in how to spot an unsafe, or that's not what I typed in, that's what we're talking about. I typed in Peaceful Child, you can see it here, Peaceful Child Essential Oil Blend. So as you can see, there are 3 very clear to see different blends. And you can see they're quite popular. So the first one has been repinned 2.1 thousand times. This one's at 956 and this one's at 241. So the information is, I would often say, if you don't see the information a lot, then question if it's true. But in this case, you're seeing it, and it's very, it looks good, right? As far as the numbers are, as far as the social proof is concerned, it looks like it's something legitimate. But when you look at the numbers, you can see that I typed it out in larger numbers underneath for the total number of drops. And yes, that's not where we want it to be, but I'll let Katie go into that more.
Okay, so let's see, since you are all now acquainted with maybe a little bit on how to spot them, in the box on the side, tell me what do you see about them that isn't safe?
So I'm just going to talk so that it pops it back up because it's on my side. So
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's funny that way how it keeps switching screens. So there's a couple things to look at. There's the, you can look at the carrier oil, you can look at the sheer amount of oils used, and you can also look at the specific oils themselves if you think back to the list. And somebody said that they can't see the chart clearly. So
okay.
I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit. And see if that helps. And I don't think I can. Okay, so I can just read it out for you guys so that you can, or I might be able to. Okay, I'm just going to zoom this in here. So on this first one, the image isn't, the graphic itself isn't very clear from Pinterest, but it has 28 drops of vetiver, 10 drops of ylang-ylang, 6 drops of frankincense, 5 drops of clary sage, 3 drops of marjoram, and 10 drops of lavender. And the directions say Combine the oils in a 10 milliliter roller bottle, top with fractionated coconut oil, and shake before use. Popular application points include soles on the feet, spine, wrists, and heart chakra. So somebody's saying, sorry, when I just say somebody, it's because the names that come up aren't your actual names, so I'm probably just going to sound silly if I say them. Not diluted enough, and the oils are on the do not use list. Absolutely.
Yes!
This one in particular, when you add it all up, oopsie, sorry guys, it has a total of, oh my goodness, I am not, I lost it. It had 62 drops, I believe is what it said. If I zoom out here. Yeah, so that one had 62 drops. So if we look over here, these two are very similar. So the one looks like it's actually been updated to add 30 drops of lavender. And so it has 85 drops of vetiver, 30 drops of ylang-ylang, 20 drops of frankincense, 15 drops of clary sage, 10 marjoram, and then 35 drops of coconut oil. So there are, oopsie, sorry, I believe that one's 160 drops in that recipe, diluted in 35 drops of fractionated coconut oil. And then if we look at this last one, it's the exact same oils as the other. I think it's just that it's, sorry guys. I think that it's just that there's a few that are more. Or you know what I probably didn't do when I was adding for that first Peaceful Child blend? I probably didn't go in and actually add that 30 drops of lavender. That would make sense because then that's putting them both at the same, because one was 160 and the other one's 190. So that's exactly what happened. So when I was talking to Katie the other day, she gave me that website for the calculator, and I hopped on and typed in this recipe. So I typed in 190 drops to 10 milliliters, because this is a 10 milliliter roller bottle, and it came out of a dilution ratio of 90%. So 90% essential oil, 10% carrier oil. And like it's called a Peaceful Child blend, right? So I would imagine if it's working on your child, part of the reason is because your child's got to react in some way to that, because it's so potent. That's probably why they're acting calmer than they usually would.
That's what I love about essential oils is we love essential oils because they are so powerful, and we use them because we do believe that they cause the body to do certain things. So we need to respect that, and respect that in a way that we use them safely with our children. And we understand that they could do harm if they're used in an unintended purpose.
And when we were talking,
or at a higher dilution.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
When we were talking, you said, and I forget exactly what it was, but you talked specifically about ylang-ylang.
Yes.
In that recipe.
It can actually become a suppressant to, I believe it's either the heart or the central nervous system, and that's why it's contraindicated for other things, like in other. And in fact, you know what? I brought my book, and I am going to look it up right now because I want to make sure I'm giving you the most accurate advice. So a lot of times when I'm giving advice on essential oils, I will go back to the book because sometimes people have issues. Oh, and I'm opened right to it. Okay, so let's look. Ylang-ylang And Tisserand and Young say that there are cautions, especially dermal. So you're cautioned on using it against hypersensitive, diseased, or damaged skin or children under 2 years of age. And what I love about this book is a lot of times they'll give their comments for different things. And so they'll give regulatory guidelines, but they'll also give other comments. And they don't really have anything here that is too specific, but I would say that I really feel that this oil is one that can actually do more harm than good in children because it can make them a little bit more restless. Or conversely, if you use too much, it can really suppress them.
And the point of sharing, the point is not for sharing those pins wasn't to throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. We know everyone has really good intentions. I know for myself, even when I started using essential oils, you just get so excited and you want to share them with everyone. So I don't think that anybody ever shares anything unintentionally or with the purpose of causing harm. Definitely not. And the great thing about Pinterest is it's really easy to share information and it's really easy to create those graphics. So anybody can create those. A lot of them, I think 2 out of the 3 did not link back to a site. They were just right on Pinterest. So there wasn't really information to back them up. And going back to the social proof, right? You see that it's been shared so many times. Well, why would people keep sharing it if it's not good? And you don't know, the problem was somebody shared it, but who's tried it? And what have their experiences been? So that's part of it too. But that was the reason, specifically that recipe, that I wanted to share, because it is so popular and it's seen frequently. But yeah, it was almost like that. Even 10%, we wouldn't dilute 10%, right? But it was the 10% was what was the carrier oil, and the 90% was what was the essential oils. So I hope that no children were harmed in using that recipe, but it's definitely one, just to give you an example of things to avoid when you're using essential oils with children.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And I think this really brings us to our Q&A. Is there any burning question that you have or recipe that you're looking for?
Oh, that's a good question, recipes. Maybe this isn't one that came up, but when people are talking about using Breathe, so that's specifically the respiratory blend, what is a good go-to? I know lavender can help with congestion and things like that, but what is one that's commonly used or recommended for young children when it comes to congestion?
I would go with lavender. I mean, that is something that I do use with my own children when they're congested. I find that it actually helps to release some of that build up congestion and help that runniness to just go. And that's pretty much the #1 that I recommend for younger ones.
And do you use that on their chest or on their feet? Like if they have it on their chest and they have like a romper, whatever it's called, a shirt under, an undershirt, that's what it is, then is that okay? Or
you know, I diffuse most often. That's like my #1 is I don't really apply it with, you could apply it with a carrier oil. I think feet sometimes are really great, especially on babies, to apply on their feet. If you were going to do it in a roller bottle, I would suggest using that fractionated coconut oil and then just a few drops, and I would do their feet. Also, another one that comes to mind is frankincense. I use that sometimes with respiratory issues.
oh, okay, that's a good one. And do you have a recipe for teething?
So I've been thinking about this for so long because obviously, like I said, my youngest is 9 months and he has 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And I know like we're going to get there. There's going to be more teeth coming through and I'm dreading it. But I don't normally use essential oils for teething pain. Mainly lavender I use because lavender is great for pain relief, especially in babies. But I don't apply it topically. I diffuse it a lot of the times. My #1 go-to is a cold washcloth. I kid you not, best, most favorite thing of both of my children is that cold washcloth on the teeth.
Okay. And is there a safe recipe for muscle pain like sports? So I would guess that that's for more the 5 to 10 age range.
Yeah, I really like juniper berry at this for that age. For pain, I find that juniper berry has a great is great for like a salve, and I like Siberian fir too for that. So I would use either of those or both of those together in a rub. You could do something with jojoba. I've used that, or trauma oil. If you've ever heard of trauma oil, that's a really great carrier for sprains, strains, things like that. You could blend either of those oils in there. And trauma oil, if you're not familiar with what it is, it's a blend of arnica, St. John's wort, calendula, and they're in olive oil. So, and if you Google them, they sell them on Amazon. I've bought trauma oil off of Amazon before.
And it's, oh, I had a question. Oh, and that would be at 1%, correct? 1%.
Yeah, I would still use that at 1%. I mean, I would say if we're talking like 10, 11, 12, I would do 2%, which is the normal ratio for adults, just because that would be like an acute thing. So you wouldn't use it all the time, like you wouldn't use it every night this week, but you would use it like after a really stressful practice.
Okay. And there's a couple questions. 2 people have asked if there's a list of things that are safe. So I know back in the 3rd slide, this was specifically for babies. You talked about suggested oils over 3 months of lavender, sweet orange, and Roman chamomile. You've talked about a few others, but I know that we don't have a list made up, but maybe that's something that we can work on. And send out with the replay, or post on. Yeah, we'll send it out with the replay. I think we can probably get that together pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, we'll get a list together. There's a lot of really great ones to use, and I'll just mainly include recommended ones. I'm not going to include like all the oils that are safe, but I'll include like, because that's a lot. There's a lot of like really obscure essential oils. That's why I put on the list a little disclaimer. It's not all the oils that aren't recommended, but it's the most common ones that aren't recommended. So in that list of recommended ones, we'll put the most common ones and what I think are the most safe ones.
Perfect. Do the unsafe oils apply to pregnancy or breastfeeding?
Yes, they do. If you go to my page, thewisewife.org, and you just search essential oils in pregnancy, I have a really great post about that. I actually just read it today as I was preparing for this webinar because I knew somebody was going to ask that. It's a hot button item. And Chantel and I talked about it this week. So many people say, do not use essential oils in your first trimester. And I can agree with that recommendation, although I can't say that I followed that in both of my pregnancies because I work with essential oils so much. I will say this, if you can avoid them, you should try. Otherwise, stick to really low dilutions. I would say 1% if you're pregnant, and even if you're breastfeeding. There are some essential oils that pass through the breast milk onto children. I don't think that's in that pregnancy post that I have. But a lot, and there's a list on that pregnancy post, you'll see there's a list of what I've used and then what is not recommended by certain experts in the field. So I think I took the list from the National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy. That's a great resource, naha.org. And you'll see that on there. So I hope that answers.
I just posted it in the comments, that specific link, but it looks like you have about, like, there's lots, there's about 20, I would say, at least, that
there are
used, and you've probably got maybe 15 here that you used yourself. So there's definitely some options for sure.
And when it comes to essential oils in pregnancy, I say less is best. I try to stick with the fewest amount of oils just because the child that you're carrying, you really don't know what is going to affect them. And each child is different. And there are some oils that are definite absolute no-nos because they're fetotoxic, so they can make you have a spontaneous abortion if used in that early first trimester. So that's why they do recommend to avoid those at that time, especially.
And what I'll do is I've been adding the links as they've come up throughout, but for anybody who's watching this back later, I will, underneath the video, I believe I can edit the description, and I'll go in and pop all of these links in so that if you're watching it at a later time that you'll have quick access to it. And then one more question right now anyway is the name of the, I think it's Tisserand, the book that you have there?
Yes. This book, if you could see it, and the authors. And if you go to my blog, thewisewife.org, the very most recent post is actually about essential oils in children, and I linked to it in that post. And I'm going to disclose that that is an affiliate link because I am supposed to do that if I'm mentioning that, just so you know. This is my disclosure. So if you do buy the book, Amazon for bloggers will give kickbacks. So that's kind of like what we do. But that's not what this is about, and you do not have to use that link to buy the book. I'm just saying that a quick link to the book is there.
I'm going to grab that also, guys, and send that link over. Essential oils and children.
You got it.
Okay, let me just copy this, and then I can pop back over and see if there's any more questions.
Thank you so much.
Here's a link for children and oils and link to the safety book. And I believe on Amazon that book's available because it's quite an expensive book, but I believe it's available for a slightly less price on Kindle as well.
Yes, so and you can also rent it.
Oh, that's good to know.
It's like a textbook. So a lot of aromatherapy schools will make you buy this book and use it as a text. So you can rent it.
I would imagine it's a really good one, though. Like, I can't imagine how many times you probably referenced that book.
I use it all the time because it, like, not only does it tell you about the essential oils and the safety, and it will tell you about the amount of certain chemical components that should be in your essential oil. It also talks about a little bit about the chemistry, so you can look into some of those chemical components and like what they are. But it also includes the research too, which is really cool.
Awesome. There aren't any other questions popping through, but just so everyone's aware, I'm not quite sure, since this is just over an hour, I'm not quite sure how long it will take. It might pop up as being complete right away, and if that's the case, then I can send out the link. Actually, well, everything will probably send out tomorrow, since we're going to get that list to you of an easy reference list of good essential oils that you can use for little ones. And I'll also include, I'm going to try my very best to get captions on there for you, closed captioning. That's just a YouTube thing, so I'm going to do my best, and I hope that it comes out clearly. Hopefully our accents don't throw the words off too much, and everyone can make out what that says for the people who need that. And yeah, so you can expect that tomorrow. I'll put the links below for anybody who wants to come back. You can use the link and come back and watch the video at any point. And it doesn't look like there's any other questions. So do you have anything else that you wanted to add in, Katie?
I think that's all. We're really, really glad that you guys came and talked with us tonight. And if you have any questions, feel free to post on either of our Facebook pages. Ask us questions. We'll get you answers if we can. But enjoy the rest of your night. Hopefully all of you with children, your children sleep through the night, and you all can enjoy a full, restful night's sleep.
Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.